Hey guys, Jeffrey from Colorado. Today we're going to continue talking about probably my favorite wilderness device for wilderness medicine, the SAM Splint. You can use it for pretty much everything, and we're going to show you some of those today. Today what we're going to talk about is putting a cervical collar on. So stick around and I'll show you how with one small little SAM Splint you can immobilize somebody's cervical collar and prevent a lot of potential injury. All right, guys, so we're talking about manual inline stabilization of the cervical spine today. So the gold standard would be that you'd approach with a few other people who are all trained providers, and one person's only job would be immobilizing the injured person's head and neck, protecting their C-spine. But in the backcountry, often you don't have the resources or trained people or whatever you need. So in this one, I'm going to show you how to quickly put a C-spine on somebody so you can do the rest of your assessment. So if somebody just took a big fall and they're writhing in pain and moving around, you still have to assess them. You're the only one around. They could have a life threat somewhere, but you also have to protect their C-spine. So in most wilderness protocols, you'll see that C-spine immobilization is part of the scene size up. So if you get on scene, unless there is a massive bleed that you have to stop, a massive femoral bleed or something, the first thing you want to do is manually immobilize their C-spine. So I'm not going to talk a lot about how to do it or a lot of the techniques. I'm just going to show how to use the collar. And essentially, you want their head to be in line in the neutral position that's anatomically correct. So just like this. It's kind of an unusual position. We usually like to slouch our heads a little bit, but this is the best position they can be in. So you want to hold their head just like that. So essentially just like this. So the jaw is kind of flat. Their head is, it's not off to either side. It's just like this. One of the things that I recommend when you're approaching somebody is say, hey, do me a favor and don't move your head. Don't nod your head. Don't look at me. You can move your eyes, but try to keep your head still so they're not nodding yes and no. So one person rescuer, I have nobody else here. This guy just fell off some rocks, landed in the back of his shoulders. Maybe he's partially responsive, or maybe, so just for this demonstration, he's seated here. But so he's been walking around for a little bit. He's got some pain. I'm not even going to talk about clearing the C-spine. We'll do a video about that. But this is just on how to use the SAM Splint for a C-collar. So in the middle, we're going to, in about 2/3 of the way up, we're going to fold it in. And I'm using more pressure with my left hand than my right. So I want this just a little indentation. And I want that to be damn near flat. That's where the chin's going to go, right? So you want to be able to come in there and do the Darth Vader choke. So the purpose of the C-spine is to come under the jaw, around the back of the cervical spine, and it's not going to do a perfect job. Even the commercial C-collars that we use in EMS don't do a perfect job. If somebody wants to move their head, they can. But it's enough that you can, hopefully they won't just, accidentally wiggle that way, and it'll make them, think about moving their head some. So one thing that we can't do here, obviously, is CMS. We're not going to, if you check for a pulse on their head and they don't have one, they're probably deceased. So it's just no CMS in this one. All right, so he's got his, I've either instructed him to sit like that, or I've got somebody holding C-spine. So I'm going to come under his jaw. That's going to be what holds his head right there. And then...
Hold on. Let's spin him around. It's really dark.
Sun, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Sorry, bud.
You good?
Yep.
All right, so it's totally okay to take a few times to put it on him and take it off and size it. It's better to get it the right size and have it look all janky, and people wonder what the hell you're doing. So right up here, his neck fits kind of in that indentation. Then we come to the back here. So there's a couple options back here. You can grab it like this, and you can roll it in, and that will tighten it, and you'll have it in the back there. That's probably the method that I use the most. So we're doing the Darth Vader choke, so it's nice and around his throat there. You don't choke him to death, obviously. I'm going to pinch right back here. So some people will complain about these. These are not a comfort device. It's not a massage device. It's really uncomfortable. So uncomfortable is one thing, in pain is another. But if they're a little uncomfortable, just tell them it's better than being paralyzed, right? So I'm rolling this down here.
My jaw is in pain.
Down.
Like right here.
Oh. And we can adjust it a little bit there if we can pad it or make a deeper angle in there. But essentially, we've got a C-collar on here, and his cervical collar, his cervical spine is immobilized, and that only took a minute to put on. You can do it when they're laying down. I'll show you a different technique for laying down in just a second here. But we've protected their spine. Now they can do their rapid assessment. Or if you've decided that you're going to have to keep that C-collar on, then you can keep that on while you're carrying them out or whatever you're doing. So let's focus on doing this same procedure from laying down. Okay, so we've got the SAM splint straightened out again, or as much as we can. Same thing. Post-trauma, we can't rule out cervical injury, so we're going to have to immobilize them. I can't really access it from the front and torque it in the back, so I'm going to slip it around, and I'll show you a little technique here. So this is a great position to be in. He's immobilized. His head's on this just for comfort. Don't move your head. You're fine. No, don't move your head. Relax the whole way. Good. So you're going to have to reach back there and fish it a little bit. You know, just do the best you can. This really is a two-person job, but do the best you can. So one comes here, and one comes here. So this folds up. And then this one, and that one folds over top there. So good enough for a primary assessment, right? So you come upon somebody, they just fell, you don't know what's going on, there's blood on the scene, whatever, nothing massive you can see. You got to take care of that C-collar, because if you start palpating somewhere and they sit up in pain and they have a fracture and they move and they become paralyzed, you know, that's going to be on you. So part of the scene size up, the last component is evaluate the mechanism of injury and see if a C-collar is appropriate. If so, you can just slap that on really, really quickly. You can always reassess this when you're done. You do this, do a rapid assessment. When you're done, come back and tighten this up, make it look a little bit better, pad it, whatever you want to do. But for right now, move your head a little bit, see if you can wiggle it. So it's pretty secure. This is one of probably my favorite method right here. So cool. So that's two ways to use the SAM splint to immobilize somebody's cervical spine. The reason that I like these SAM splints so much is because you can use them for a lot of stuff. A commercial C-collar, they cost about 50 bucks. Usually you have to get a prescription, although, you know, you can get stuff on Amazon, and you can only use it for that cervical collar. With this, you can immobilize pretty much anything. I recommend carrying at least 2 or 3 of these in your kit. As you just saw here, we used one for the C-collar. So if you come upon somebody who's unresponsive, the first thing you're going to have to do is put a C-collar on them, and now you're out of SAM splints. So 2 or 3 of them, remembering you're going to use one of them for a C-collar most likely, and then you might have some orthopedic injuries. So stick around. We're going to do some more videos about using this SAM splint for leg injuries, back injuries, things like that. Oh yeah, if you have any comments, put them below, and I'll try to get to them as soon as I can.